What's up guys, Asian here, and this is the last week of the Greymoor PTS 6.0.4. This is going to be the final PTS patch notes review that I'm doing in the foreseeable future. So let's get right into it. This is the last chance for ZOS to kind of address any sort of balance changes, or I should say the penultimate chance for ZOS to address any sort of balance changes that we might have given feedback on the Greymoor PTS. Hopefully they listened to some of the wiser feedback that was given and made some appropriate changes here in 6.0.4. There is the distinct possibility that there are changes coming up in the live release version 6.0.5 that's coming out on Tuesday next week. But with the fiasco that was Horns of the Reach, seems unlikely that they'd be willing to make any sort of drastic changes between 6.0.4 and 6.0.5, but it is not outside of the realm of possibility. So let's go ahead and get started here. Greymoor fixes and improvements, crafting economy, nothing really there. For Kinds of Aegis, looks like they made a couple of last minute changes to a couple of the bosses here, so Captain Vroll and Lord Falgravn. Vroll chains were changed, the sharpened conduit seems to have been changed here. All these points seem to be a nerf to Sharpened Conduit. Again, I haven't done Kinds Aegis, so I'm not 100% certain what Sharpened Conduit is, but reducing the damage and reducing the health seems to me like it is a nerf to this mechanic. Lord Falgravn, looks like they made an adjustment, a fix here for the Torturers, and Death Seekers, they changed something about how they are able to hit player characters with a certain ability. Under the Antiquities line here, it does seem like they fixed a number of issues again, but nothing specifically here. Let's see, dig sites, excavation, these are all probably issue changes. Itemization, they fixed an issue where the digging difficulty for different Ebon, Dwarf, and Wolf parts was too samey. So nothing here with things like Thrassian Stranglers, which is the big antiquity that really needs to be rebalanced. Journal Codex, leads, scrying. So yeah, nothing here indicating that they changed anything with Thrassian Stranglers. It could be further down into itemization changes under combat and gameplay. But nothing here on the Antiquity section that indicates that they changed Thrassian Stranglers at all, which is the big Antiquity piece that needs to be taken a look at in terms of a rebalance. Housing, monsters and NPCs, nothing much here that concerns PvE content. Quests and zones, again, not much here. For PvE content. Morrowind, Nedge Goucher Spellfiends, that doesn't really affect us. Somerset doesn't really affect us here, general. Combat and gameplay, this is where the bulk of things are, but seems like they're pretty sparse here. They fixed one issue here with the base crit resistance. I know that was an issue that was being raised on the PTS forum, so it looks like they should have fixed that. Then item sets, Thrassian Stranglers, fixed an issue where the set worked against critter kills. Then Yandir's Might and perfected Yandir's Might. This is the medium armor set from Kinds Aegis. They fixed an issue where you could not gain Giant's Endurance under specific circumstances. So this was something that I noticed where if you killed critters, these are like the one health, like the rats and the centipedes that you might see out in the overworld, you would actually gain stacks by killing them. I wasn't sure if that counted or not, whether that was intended or not, but it seems like it was not intended, so they fixed that issue. But this is not the rebalance change that I was expecting with Thrassian Stranglers. Many of us have given feedback to the class reps through the PTS/feedback or/bug on the PTS forums and elsewhere concerns with Thrassian Stranglers. And I think I already did a video explaining my concerns with Thrassian Stranglers and what the set kind of introduces into the game. Essentially, Thrassian Stranglers will just widen the skill gap even further than it already is. And I think it's just, in general, not a great yet to introduce. A lot of people have been giving me counter arguments like, well, you have to farm for it under the Antiquity section. You're taking more damage, but it's the difficulty of obtaining Thrassian Stranglers isn't a big deal. I mean, think about Perfected Lachesty's daggers, for example. Those are still going to be a farm no matter what, and people are still willing to farm those. So it's not really an issue of how difficult it is to obtain these sets. And the 2% damage taken, I've already kind of covered this, where you're never going to really be playing with 20 stacks. You're going to be playing with maybe 3 or 4 stacks, and at that point, it's already stronger than a Monster Helm set or a 5-piece bonus could even give you. and you're already basically a permanent minor vulnerability is not that big of a deal when it comes to damage taken. Even progression groups are willing or able to adjust to 8% to 10% additional damage taken across all DPS. So for me, Thrassian Stranglers, the fact that they haven't fixed it doesn't bode well to the overall health of the game. It's just going to increase the skill gap even further than what it already is. The fact that this section right here is so small, it's only 3 bullet points, you know, kind of concerning overall to the how they're approaching combat and gameplay balance. Base game, fixes and improvements, art and animation, housing, miscellaneous UI. Not much here to talk about for PvE. So 6.0.4, pretty much no balance changes at all. So again, there's always a distinct possibility that they might make some major changes in 6.0.5 compared to 6.0.4, but with the blowback that they received in the Horns of the Reach expansion when they did that, I find it to be unlikely that they're going to make any sort of major balance changes in 6.0.5 on Tuesday. So what we see on the PTS is likely going to be what we're going to get on Tuesday. So overall, I my opinion on this chapter still remains the same. Uh, I'm not particularly enthused about it, and I'm actually kind of glad that I am going into retirement when this chapter is released on Tuesday. Again, I will be releasing builds, so don't worry about that. But I just won't be playing this game as my quote unquote main game anymore. I'm probably going to move on to other single player or multiplayer games to play with my friends. But I will, of course, be doing the builds for Greymoor, so that are the meta builds as well as the sort of off meta builds that people really enjoy, things like two-handed builds, bow builds, things like that. And I will do a 6.0.5 patch notes review as well, which might be separated out into different videos, much like the initial PTS patch note 6.0.0, depending on how large the patch notes actually are. But yeah, this particular PTS patch notes doesn't really bode well for the Greymoor release next week. But that's it for this video. As always, I have a link in the description below to the full patch notes if you guys want to read that in its entirety. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next dungeon.